Right, so Caligula, the whole band this time. Welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. Introduce yourself and tell me what you do in the band.
My name is Rob and I play bass.
My name is Ed, I play the drums.
John Scherer, vocals. Chris DeLeo, guitars.
Okay, so when did Caligula form? Who wants to take it?
1985.
Okay, under what circumstances?
Well, this gentleman and this gentleman can probably explain that a little better.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, me and Chris were playing together a little bit, and we needed a drummer, and we had a mutual friend who told us about Eddie, and so we hooked up and we started playing at Eddie's garage and working on material, and you know, it basically then looked for a singer after that. You know.
So when you formed, what goals did you have in mind, music-wise?
Just the bands we liked at the time, I guess. You know.
Well, yeah,
you know.
the early thrash metal.
Yeah, early thrash metal.
Hardcore, whatever was out, like in, you know, 83, 84, and that, you know, those few bands in the scene, whatever little scene was going on, that's what we wanted to do.
Who came up with the name Caligula and why that name?
Right, so that was.
So I went to high school with another guitar player that was in Caligula at the beginning, named Tom, and he had the name, and we played as a five-piece for a while. But then it didn't work out, and we kept the name, and you know.
The guy kept the name. Got rid of the guy, kept the name.
Got rid of Tom. Tom was a cool guy, but yeah, it just didn't work out. And then yeah, we kept the name, and I think he put a curse on us, which probably worked to a certain degree. And then that was it.
All right. Who influenced you at that time?
Which bands?
Yeah, musically.
I mean, obviously the big ones, Metallica, Slayer, I guess, and you probably have a lot more influences than you could name. You know.
All right.
Like, you know, like we were into all from Venom, or the new wave of British heavy metal was a big influence. You know, and then you know we even started getting into some weirder, you know, musical people, like, you know, some jazz stuff and classical stuff. I mean, not that we, you know, emulate that too much, but you know, we were kind of like young and learning about all the world of music, and you know, all that kind of stuff came together, you know, and as influences, but it was mostly in a metal band, you know.
I mean, yeah, this was our first like real band, like, especially with me, Rob, and we met to join together. So we were really learning as well. So a lot of the earlier efforts were, you know, you could say primitive by comparison in the songwriting. Then it quickly evolved. I feel like once we kind of formed here, then everything evolved pretty quick. You know, you were writing songs more prolific, and we started developing a little more of a.
Your first demo came out in what, 1984? How did it do?
Oh, the first one.
Yeah. The very first one.
Yeah, I think not too good, because the guy who eventually ended up recording Technical Aggression, you know, became a friend of ours and felt so bad for us that he, you know, offered to do it for free. And you know, he did a great job. And so, you know, the first tape, I think we were still figuring out like what it is that we wanted to sound like, and we had never been in the studio before, so I actually haven't heard that tape in a number of years.
And 2 years later there was another tape, right? In what, 80?
Well, that was the main tape.
No, then there was the one before that one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to.
Yeah, right. See, nobody's heard these tapes in a long time. So there was like the one in between, the second one we did with Betty, but before John was in the band. So what songs did we have on there? It was like Where Angels Fear to Tread was the song that was on there, but Caligula, the song, I think was on there. So yeah, we can't even remember, because
I remember getting those tapes through tape trading, so I know that it existed.
That's so sick. I'm sure they
tell us about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. You can probably...
I'll sell you a copy.
I'll trade you some bad rehearsal tapes. So yeah, we had those two tapes, and then the one that I think really counts for us and really, you know, feels like the only one was the Technical Aggression.
And we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, okay.
Now, with the first two tapes, was there any label interest?
No.
I don't think so.
No?
But I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
I don't remember.
So let's talk about this big third tape.
Okay.
Who wants to start?
Yeah, Technical Aggression, I guess is when we really came
That's the
together.
one.
Yeah, it came together as a band and came together, you know, as musicians, and with a sound and everything that was cohesive and a vision, you know. And then, like he said, Ron, a friend of ours, did the recording, did a great job, and you know, it was fun, exciting that period of time because we got John in the band.
Right.
And
That's
just,
where,
there was a lot of momentum. We were playing shows at that point, you know, and so yeah, there was a lot of momentum, and it was fun.
A lot of it solidified. You know, let's be honest. A lot of it, obviously the music too, but having John in the band really gave the whole thing. Everything clicked once John joined. His vocals, his sound. That's when it really became something special for us, anyway.
Right. So John, how did they find you?
I don't know.
You were selling that second tape.
Well, you know what? We had played a show together
Grunge Club.
at the Grunge Club with their old singer and my band Death Thrash, and you know, I guess probably around the time when Vinny decided he didn't want to do it anymore or whatever. You know, Death Thrash had broken up, so somehow they got in touch with me, and you know, they're like, "Hey, you want to sing? You want to play with Caligula?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" You know, we had met. They were cool. Loved their music, and you know, it seemed like a real good opportunity and a good, you know, a good fit.
I mean, John was in New Jersey, and we were all in Queens, so he would commute back and forth once a week, right? Was it once a week?
Yeah. I'd come out on the weekends, you know, take the bus to the train, and then you know, we'd rehearse a couple of times. You know, either go to a party or a show on the weekend, and you know, then on Sunday we'd, you know, go to the hardcore matinees and CBGBs, and then poof, back into Jersey.
John, what did you think you could contribute to the band since you joined something that was already happening? What did you think you bring?
Well, you know, everybody was really easy to work with, and you know, they knew that what I was doing with Death Thrash, and so I figure if it ain't broke, why fix it? So I just kind of did what I was doing with basically how I vocalize or sing. You know, I just brought it to Caligula.
Technical aggression, very strong. Any label interest at that point?
Some then.
Yeah, there should have been.
We talked to a few.
So what happened?
Nothing ever really came to be, and yeah, I guess it's hard to imagine, right? But then we were talking to a couple of people. We talked, you know, I think Combat was in the mix at some point. We talked to a couple other ones, but
it didn't seem like, you know, it was a little flirtation going on.
Yeah, they never. Really, I guess the best way I could say is that nothing ever really seemed solid. You know, that solid.
Right. There was never like a
solid
real
thing to jump on. There were labels floating around, and then you know, gradually, you know, I think because we didn't get signed to put a record out, like, you know, that's why the band eventually broke up.
We may have, in retrospect, we may have broken up a little prematurely. Had we stuck it out maybe one more year, you know, we might have had something.
You know,
maybe
anyway, that was the deal with labels.
6 months a year.
There were a few, but nothing too solid, and it just
they never really offered us, you know, a real deal.
Yeah.
So
we didn't have good management either. That was another thing. We had like a good man. We were doing a lot of things ourselves, and then for a short period of time, we had a manager who really didn't give us great advice and didn't really shepherd us into something better. So I think if we had better management, that might have helped us. You know, like the typical story, we play music and, you know, enjoy it. We're not business people, so.
The other thing is, I have to remind myself that we were young. I was 21 when we stopped playing. You were 21. You were about 19, 20.
Yeah, 18, 19.
He was about the same age. So we were very, very young when we.
Yeah, right.
We were like we were 26, 27, 28. You know, we were kids. It was really weird. I forget about how young we actually were when we were playing and when we broke up too. Very young.
So the breakup happened in 1988. How come?
I think pretty much because of like what we were just talking about with the lack of being like moving forward. We weren't getting better shows really. We were playing with some good bands, but it didn't seem to progress into a record, into better shows, like opening for even bigger bands. So it just kind of fizzled out, I guess.
We got to play with bands like Whiplash, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, a bunch of times.
A bunch of cool ones.
Times.
That was happening. I think and that was all great. But as best as I can remember it, that's why we broke up.
How would you sum up the 4 years from 1984 to 1988?
Fun, lots of fun, exciting.
We were very young, so we were very little kids at that point. Think about it, 17, 18. He was 15, Eddie.
Right.
I mean, Eddie was 15 years old.
You sort of find
when I
like
met
the guys that are into doing what you want to do, which at that time was like play music and specifically that music. So, you know, yeah, it was fun. Like we got to do it for a little bit.
And you got to remember, not only were we young, but the whole scene was young.
Yeah.
So there was an excitement factor about being part of like an emerging scene. I mean, there was some big established bands like Metallica, Slayer, but there was a lot of bands at that point.
They were still really
They were big to
small.
us.
They were big to us, but they were still small. Like me personally in Jersey, you know, I'd wear a Metallica shirt or whatever, and nobody knew who Metallica was. Nobody knew who Slayer was.
Yeah, that was the case. So I mean, if you look, you know, we actually did a lot of the things that we set out to do. We played with bands we loved. We got into, you know, Kerrang and the cool fanzines that were, you know, around the scene. And, you know, they reviewed our tape, and it would have been great, you know, to just keep doing that. But in retrospect, it was just kind of, you know, the scene changed a little bit around 88, and then, you know, the lack of interest or moving forward, and that was that.
So in 2019, the band reforms, right?
Yes.
What led to this reunion?
Ripping Storm Records, right? I would say was the catalyst. You know,
Right.
Tell us more about that.
Ripping Storm Records. It was
Right, from Italy, he reached out to us, Boris. Yeah. So Boris from Ripping Storm was the catalyst behind getting the record actually, you know, properly released, which is fantastic. And it took a really long time and a lot of emails. And Boris was really persistent.
Oh my God, he was amazing.
And I give him a lot of credit. And once I turned it over to Chris, it finally got done.
No, I mean, this guy Boris from Italy, just an amazing guy. Whatever he's doing over there is incredible. Just taking these old bands, these old demos, and repackaging them, and really making a beautiful product. I mean, more than we, you know, could have imagined.
So right around the same time, I think Ed spoke to you about the show.
Yeah, we're playing tonight, the Rage of Armageddon. This is Rage of Armageddon 6. And the guy who puts it on, awesome guy, Ed Farshty. And, you know, over the years, he'd been booking my band, Death Thrash. And every time I'd see him like once or twice a year, and he'd always ask, "You ever talk to the guys at Caligula? You guys should get back together. Because if you do, I'll book you." So I was like, whatever. And then I didn't have, I mean, basically I would just run into Eddie every few years at a show. So,
and these two guys I would still talk to from time to time, but you know, everybody was kind of into other things.
Yeah, but I mean, and I didn't even.
Right, I saw you the least then. It was like a long time.
Well, I saw you the most. and then
yeah, I mean,
and then
by most, I mean every 5 years.
Yeah, and then finally I'm like, hey, give me your phone number.
I mean, at that point, I hadn't seen John. I don't think Rob had seen John for 13 years. Right?
Yeah, until we got together for rehearsal.
Until I drove into his driveway that afternoon, and there he was. 30 years. Amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, you cut your hair.
A lot of back and forth on the phone, though. It's like, oh, come on, we can do it, let's do it. But finally, we all decided we were going to make the effort.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this show was kind of the catalyst. You know what I mean? The record was definitely happening, but this show was kind of the reason to actually do it.
That is true. Yeah, the record was probably the thing that got us like talking again more often, and then the show was like, let's get to a room and actually.
The timing was good.
The timing was good. Yeah, it all came together.
So, and then after we started rehearsing, everybody's like, "Hey, listen to this riff. We should write some new songs."
Which brings me to my next question: will there be any new music?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're gonna hear some new songs tonight.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are back. Good luck with everything you do.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for speaking with me.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.